Wow, markets are green today, and it looks like some of the euphoria we had back in February and before is back now. We have AMC absolutely moonbound right now, and I'm very, very happy I still have my shares there, and I will be continuing to hold those. Of course, I was down on that for a while actually, and now I'm up, and it just shows if you have conviction, if you hold, then that's where you can really make money, and that's what I'm seeing with MVMD right now too, right? The price is just being continually coming down. Today we're actually finally up 10% for once, but still nowhere near the price we were at before. But if you guys continue to hold, if you have conviction on MVMD like I do, then I think it will pay off in the future, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about today is the Q&A session, the Ask Me Anything that Dennis and Mike sort of did 2 days ago here, and there's some really, really good stuff in there, so I want to talk about that. But before we get into that, I also want to mention clean tech, right? I'm really bullish on clean tech. You guys know I am with CMC, although their short report just came out about that. We did talk about that already. More importantly, fuel cell and plug power, two of my favorite picks in the hydrogen industry, both doing much better than they were again, and I do see them continuing upwards from here with a little bit of euphoria, with a little bit of FOMO buying there, especially on Friday. It is FOMO Friday today after all. So yeah, really bullish on those as well. But anyways, so that is that. Watch those industries, right? Because clean tech, again, that's one of those industries. Like, I could see hydrogen in the next 20 to 25 years really becoming sort of part of the norm of society, and so that's why I haven't done a video on plug or fuel cell or the hydrogen industry in a while in general, but I just wanted you guys to know that I'm still very bullish there, and just on that clean tech space in general. So watch out for that. Anyways, let's get into MVMD, because the Q&A session is really what I want to talk to you guys about today. And I did kind of make some notes here on the presentation on the Q&A session. I was out during that day and I was just listening through my headphones. I did get a chance to rewatch about half of that so far. But if you guys are kind of worried about MVMD right now and you're not sure what to do because the price has been coming down, I would say do not worry about it. Hold and you will be rewarded, just like the holders of AMC are currently being rewarded right now. And if you guys are feeling like you want to sell, I highly suggest you go watch the Q&A session that Dennis and Mike did on MVMD. It is really good, and there's some really good information in there just about what they're doing in general, about some of the partnerships that may be coming up, and just sort of where they're advancing with trials, etc. But we're going to go through a lot of that today as well. So do check it out. Link will be in the description there. Now, we'll start off with the NEO listing. We know that MVMD wanted to list on the TSXV, and they did bring out kind of an NR on that. But now it seems like Dennis, what he was talking about during the Q&A, is he might be looking to get onto the NEO exchange instead. Now, this is also a Canadian exchange, started in 2015, but it is basically an exchange that makes it fair for retail investors to trade. There's kind of less manipulation, less sort of order flow statistics, etc. for these bigger institutional investors and etc. And it just kind of brings it back to more traditional investing with new technology, right? This exchange, like I said, is only out since 2015, but let's take a look at kind of their website here for a second, and we can see some of the stocks. It's still not that big of an exchange, but it's getting a lot bigger. And one of the comparisons that I really wanted to make is MMed, right? Because they actually listed on the NEO exchange first and are now listed on the NASDAQ. They also have 0 revenues to date. They are as well in that kind of health space, kind of psychedelic therapeutic space, if you will. And MVMD kind of has their hands in that as well, we'll say, but definitely by no means their main business. But anyways, what we can see is they did list here, a while back, and And as I already mentioned, MMed is now also MNMD on the NASDAQ, and they got uplisted there after, they had their listing on the Neo exchange. And I think this can really, really help the share price of MVMD, but also just get them more known onto a little bit of a bigger exchange, and hopefully we move as well to the NASDAQ from there. Like I said, MindMed as well, no revenues right now, and I would argue that MVMD is kind of has a bigger potential than MindMed moving forward. So, we can go through sort of some of the financials there as well, comparing the two, but I'm actually going to do that for another video. So just kind of watch out for this listing. I think this is a much, much better pathway to go through than the TSXV listing, especially because I like this exchange because it really kind of is for the retail investor. So that is that. Moving on from there, we have Dennis talking about finalizing an MOU for COVID and Ivectosol. MOU is a memorandum of understanding, right? And so they're close here to a partnership for COVID and Ivectosol. And this is really where it gets interesting, because there are a lot of partnerships on the table right now, and we'll go through some of the reasons why I say that through the Q&A there. But really, I think it's going to be fantastic for MVMD. No, it doesn't necessarily mean instant revenues from an MOU, obviously, because they still need to have a definitive agreement and then move forward with the partnership. But still, this is the beginning stages, right? MVMD is still early in the process, and the more we kind of see their business model working, and the more we kind of see the realization of potential revenues and that everything MVMD is saying is true, that's going to lead us to a higher share price. Now we can take a look at their pipeline here, right? And we can just see, and we've gone through this before, but some of their partnering licenses here, we're in progress here for the dose sparing adjuvant, right? We're in progress here for the cold chain, and this is probably likely the partnership that they're talking about here, where an MOU is going to be happening, right? Another partnership in progress down here, right? Targeted first revenues, human partnering licenses for ivermectin, and more, right? I won't go through all this. I've gone through it before, but the point is we're getting here to commercialization. We're getting closer to these revenues, and from that, we're going to see a big move in the stock price, especially if we see these realized revenues from MVMD actually be what we're expecting them to be, right? Which is quite high. And but again, we might not be there right at first. Dennis talks about some of the pilot projects that they're working on in Africa and Bangladesh, and again, they're just pilot projects, just starting off here. So if we see a little bit of revenues and they're not as high as people are expecting, we don't really know what the share price is going to do from that. But judging by where we are right now, I think it will make the share price move upwards. Then again, I've been wrong with MVMD before, and we've just kind of come down, for a while now. But still, I'm bullish, and I think these partnerships are really going to prove what MVMD is doing is legitimate, and they can move forward with all of that. Right now, they mention a couple other partnerships here, and I did kind of get into some of them a little bit in sort of what I was just saying, but Mike Farber, kind of mentioned this as he was just kind of talking, and he said that they're being approached by partners right now that add insight and scope of application for the MVMD technology. So they're actually being approached by partners, and I don't think that MVMD is taking them all on, to be honest with you. I think they are kind of looking, as Dennis says as well throughout the Q&A, that they're looking for a specific partner that aligns themselves with what they're doing, which isn't necessarily looking for the highest profits right away, but is actually looking to help people, right? More life, less death. That's kind of Dennis's motto there for this company, and I think that's kind of the company's motto as well in general. So that's really good, though, that they're being approached by partners. I think that really, again, proves their technology, proves what they're doing is effective, and it's going to work in the future. Also, what gets me very, very bullish about MVMD is Dennis says, and I can't remember where it was in the Q&A, but he says that we are in talks with a partner, and everyone will know who that partner is, aka we will know what the company is that they're working with, we will know who they are working with, because they are kind of like a household name essentially, right? Or at least people in the industry will know what that company is. And that again makes me really, really bullish, because if it is a partner that a lot of people know, then it's definitely a big company. And with that, likely is going to come quite big revenues. So that does get me very excited. It's not Pfizer for sure, because as Dennis does say as well in the Q&A session, they are not doing any deals with Pfizer right now, and Pfizer may end up being actually competition towards MVMD. So it will definitely not be them, but a different partnership with someone who is well known, a company that is well known, is definitely on the table, and it's something that we need to look out for moving forward here. On top of that, on Monday, actually, as Dennis says, that he's going to have kind of an interview or kind of a session with a senior member in the field, whatever that might mean, talking about the BSL4 trials and where they're going from there with ivermectin. So that is going to be big, and I have a feeling that, you know, the partnership with Ivectosol there with the BSL4 trials is going to be part of that, but we'll see. You know, again, the presentation is on Monday, so do expect that for Monday. As for some other partnerships as well here, potentially the animal husbandry category there with Ivectosol is moving forward, and Mike Farber says that it is kind of a shorter term play, not necessarily meaning that they won't do it for a long time, but it means that revenues are going to be realized and commercialization is going to be realized from those husbandry animal trials and that category sooner rather than later. So that's really good. He also talks about the FDA 5052B pathway and says that there will be approval for that within the next 2 years. Now that is quite a ways down the road, but there's still quite a few things to do there. And remember, that is for kind of the North American kind of continent there, right? Because there's stricter regulations, more politics there, whereas in Africa, you know, West Africa specifically is where they're starting. In Bangladesh, there's kind of less politics leading that, less regulation in some senses, because they already know that the drug is safe. So, you know, there it's much easier to kind of prove their concept there, prove what they're doing and move forward with that quicker, and that's kind of why they're starting there. Now, it's definitely really early to say any partnership about the cancer trials going on, but what Mike does say is they are looking to kind of have an accelerated pathway for their cancer trials with their ivermectin technology there, their new technology. And Mike does say that he thinks that ivermectin presents the type of groundbreaking paradigm for cancer that is needed to kind of get this acceleration of their cancer trials going. And in 6 months, they will know where they're going with cancer. In the next month, they should have started to show what they're doing with trials, and should have also started to show some of the research of ivermectin and its effectiveness in cancer treatment. So really good things there too. We will have to obviously wait a little bit longer for that though, but not too much longer either. And keep in mind too, if you're here for the cancer stuff, you know, then if you're in MVMD for that, then still, you know, or if you're thinking about getting an MVMD for that, then it's still a good time to get in now, because again, they are going to have some partnerships coming up soon, I think, and with that, the price will obviously increase a lot from there. Now, cancer may be the end goal, you know, but there's still a lot of steps in between here and there. So that's that. And then finally, Mike says on Cold Chain that they are quite close to finishing that project. That means two things, really. First of all, it means that the FDA cold chain trials went well, and we're going to get into that as well just after, actually, in the next point here. But that went well, and also that they're potentially having a partnership coming up soon there within that. So do really watch out for the cold chain stuff here. Now, getting into the cold chain stuff next here, we have the kind of collaborative research agreement with the FDA. And this is why Dennis says that they've actually delayed those results, because they have the results. And Dennis doesn't say that those results are bad. He actually says they're really good. And that's part of the reason the FDA has decided they want to delay kind of releasing these results, because it's up to the FDA to finalize the agreement for the collaborative research agreement. And as he says, once that happens, the results will be immediately presented. And Dennis can't comment further because there are immediate applications. That is really, really big for this cold chain stuff, that there's immediate applications once they kind of get through the finalization of the agreement. But he also says that commercialization opportunities are still on the table and how they want to move forward there. So essentially, they don't necessarily have a single partner yet for the cold chain stuff, but they do have immediate applications for that, and it's kind of up to MVMD to decide how they want to move forward with that, if they want to move forward with a license agreement, another type of partnership, or anything else. It's kind of all on the table there, and as Dennis kind of says, yes, immediate applications, no, not necessarily immediate revenues from that, because they kind of haven't decided how they want to move forward with that. But I do want to show you guys what a collaborative research agreement means here. And if we go back to here, I actually have it up right here. So a CRADA, which is a cooperative research and development agreement, right, is an agreement under which the FDA laboratories contributes personnel, services, facilities, equipment, and other resources, but not funding towards the conduct of specific research and development efforts. So that's kind of what it is, and I do kind of see the FDA moving forward with that, and this is the reason that the results have been delayed, and it's not because they're bad. I think it's actually because they're really, really positive results that the FDA has decided, look, we want to do more research here. I think it would be beneficial to do more research here, and so let's move forward with one of these collaborative research agreements, and let's get this moving, right? So really big stuff there that the FDA is actually being in talks there with them. Instead of just giving them the results and posting them, they're actually doing a full-on research agreement here with that. So really good stuff there. Again, it means they have to spend less money to kind of get their results here, spend less money on research and development of the kind of this cold chain technology. So big things coming here, I think. And again, Dennis kind of says this is going to be within the next week, within the next 2 weeks here. It's just about finalizing that agreement, and that's all. So this is one of the things that I'm looking most forward to here in the next few weeks, I would say. Now, we've already mentioned the BSL4 trials and what's going on there, but I will just say again, there's a presentation on that next week, so do watch out for that. And as Dennis says, he says with someone senior, and that'll be early next week. He did, I think, say Monday in the actual Q&A there. And on top, Dennis mentioned that there's a kind of a German investor who has a large following and is also very excited about cold chain here. And so, potentially there's some new investors coming in from Europe as well. So that would be very nice to see there. Now, Mike does also talk a little bit about the intent to patent Ivectosol worldwide. He talks about how they can extend that patent for another 20 years. We already know that with the new delivery technology. We've gone through that. Dennis has talked about that quite a lot. But what's really, really good to hear there too is Mike and Dennis both also kind of say that they have a verbal deal here, or a verbal agreement that the patent that they have for Ivectosol will go through, and then it's just about making that patent a worldwide patent. So they're very, very close to having that finished as well, which again is great, great news for MVMD there. And interestingly enough, Mike kind of, I think, says this a little bit on accident here, but he says that the husbandry animal trials were going very well, essentially, that they were kind of that they're pretty successful. Now, he doesn't say that completely, but he when he was bringing across his point, he made it clear, oh yeah, like the animal trials are going well, etc. So yes, we want to patent Ivectosol, and they're pretty much done that patent as well. Again, a verbal agreement, and so they're just finalizing that as well too. A lot of things being finalized right now in MVMD, and I think that's going to really move the price moving forward here in the next anywhere between really month here and 2 months, but I would say as soon as kind of the next 2 weeks, we will see some of these things coming to fruition here. So that's really, really good stuff, I think. Not too much else to mention, but they are in talks with government grants. So again, they get funding without any dilution. Not that they need any funding right now, as Dennis makes it very clear that they have, and as we know from their financials, a good amount of cash, no real cash flow, obviously, but they won't need to raise any capital for a while because their cash burn and their kind of overhead is so low because of these CROs that they work with, right? The third-party CROs. So good things there. Now, nearest revenues is something I don't want to mention, and that's in Bangladesh likely, and West Africa is one of the places that we might see the nearest term revenues. Dennis says they're moving fast, but there are obviously always delays. Revenue within the next 90 days, he says, and these might just be pilot projects, as I already mentioned, and so the revenues from those pilot projects may not be as big as we are expecting them to be, but they're just pilot projects, so keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, you know, if they are really high, and I honestly don't know if they're going to be big or small revenues here, then that's just going to mean even larger revenues in the future. So keep that in mind. So Bangladesh within the 90 days, and also commercialization within the 90 days for, West Africa. And they're already going through a GMP produced ivermectin for those human trials there. So really, really good things, really, really bullish, I would say, Q&A session. They really did answer a lot of questions on partnerships, which is a big worry right now for investors, right? Because we haven't seen anything yet. But keep in mind, right? Look at MindMed. They're a $1 billion valuation company. They have no revenues right now as well. So that listing to the Neo exchange, and had we not seen that short report, in the absence of that short report, I think MVMD would be at a higher price right now. But it's because people are worried about no partnerships, no revenues. Is this all fake? Because they're promising so much, right? And now they just need to deliver that. But I think within the next month, within the next 2 months here, we will see a lot of these things being delivered. Now it's just up to kind of how well they're delivered, how far they're delivered, and what kind of revenues we can be expecting from these pilot projects, what revenues we can be expecting in general. And we're going to really find that out in the next couple months here, max, I would say. Now, a cool point to finish off on is that Dennis says, yes, we are looking to make profits at MVMD, but that's not what drives us again. And I said this at the beginning, but they are looking for partners to make a difference, not necessarily what their highest profits can be here. So that's also part of the reason why I'm personally invested in MVMD. They are looking to make a difference. They are looking to change the world, and it's not all about profits, which I really, really respect. They aren't necessarily looking to take on big pharma either, but it's inevitable that they will be doing that in some sort of sense with their Ivectosol and with some of their other tech there. So that's going to do it for the video today, guys. I hope you did like it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment as always. And other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic FOMO Friday, a fantastic weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday.